Hey Weirdo, welcome back to The Weird Canadian. Today's guest is Christopher W. Quigley, a Nova Scotia-based artist, designer, and stroke survivor who's transformed personal adversity into a powerful national mission. He's the founder and creative director at Alchemia Art Workshop, a nonprofit art organization rooted in the belief that public art can speak to real societal change. His latest project, Transformation of Dangerous Spaces, is a cross-Canada installation that reimagines the hidden spaces where gender-based violence often begins. Bathroom stalls, locker rooms, and ignored corners of public life. Through sound, light, and visceral design, Christopher invites Canadian men to reflect on consent, accountability, and the spaces we take for granted. It's art, but not gallery art. It's a call to action. And as a Canadian, this is urgent. I had a nice discussion with Christopher in our pre-interview, and he really impressed me with his understanding of breaking down what his success was, who he truly is, and how he's made that journey through life. It really resonated with me, and I saw a lot of parallels in our story, and that's why I wanted to bring him on. So welcome to the show, Christopher W. Quigley.
I am Christopher Quigley. I am the executive director of Alchemia Art Workshop, a new nonprofit based in Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia. And we create transformative works of art, transformative pieces of public art that are meant to kind of stimulate dialogue and conversation. And some of the things that we make are difficult topics, but we approach them with a very soft hand.
That's very fair. I started exploring a little bit of your background and came across the questioning of what remains after structures collapse. Can you tell me about that transformation? Like, what does that look like and how you went through that?
So there's a lot about this on the literal level and on a metaphorical level. On a literal level, my body betrayed me. On April 25th, 2023, I had a massive stroke. I had two, actually, in that week. And that tore down everything I believed in. It tore down and removed a part of me, because I'm a much different person now. It changed me. It really changed me for the better. It rewired my brain in a way that I feel things a lot more deeply. I feel things more heavily. Small things, affect me. And when I talk about how things transform and how this has been transformative, it has completely shifted my perspective on the world and how I see it and what I want to create. And one of the things that I kind of realized that through the first half of my career, I've done very well, but I didn't do a lot of good. And so the stroke and having your mortality placed in front of you and how fragile it is made me realize that for the second half of my life, however long it might last, I have to do some good with whatever time I have left. And every part of who I was beforehand has been replaced. And I really enjoy that.
That's a fair statement, and it echoes my transformation as well. Just I want to build something that's helping, and I'm successful in my own right in this, and I feel more successful doing just talking to people like you. So let's get into what your previous persona was. Can you tell me about your upbringing?
So I grew up in a small town called Portage-la-Prairie, Manitoba. My father was in the military. My mother comes from a very hardworking parents. That my grandfather was in the Second World War. My grandmother used to make, at one time, she was in British Columbia and she was making radios for the war effort. So we come from, hardworking background. My parents divorced when I was 10, and my sister and I grew up on my grandparents' farm. And we rode rodeo until we were about 15 or 16 years old. And previous to that, we had bore witness to a lot of inconsistencies with our family and with intimate partner violence and gender-based violence. I was 13 years old, so it would have been 1989. I came out, and I was in Portage-la-Prairie, Manitoba, and I was a very weird little gay kid running around. So I was 13 or 14 years old. I had suffered a lot of violence in that time. But I was able to, pick myself up, dust myself off. I moved to Vancouver for about 20 years, where I met and married my partner at the time. We moved to New York as a career move. And I had been in the interior design world and the custom manufacturing world. I was building architectural statements and public art pieces and items for other artists. And that was my career. I made a really good career and a really good life out of creating things for other people, helping them with their narratives and helping them build their things that they wanted to build. So I've worked with, the Howard Hughes Corporation, Metz and Chu, which are a couple of Canadian public artists, Dan Shaughnessy in the United States. I've worked with some really incredible artists and architects. I've done some amazing architectural work as well. And like I said, I've done very well, and it was a good career. And when the stroke happened, I realized that I had my own voice, that I still had a voice. And I had things that I wanted to say and things that I wanted to create. So I'm going to be a public artist and I'm going to make something. And so I developed a number of works that I wanted to create. And out of it came about the project that I'm working on now, which really focuses on intimate partner violence, gender-based violence, and how young men and boys are socialized. And kind of touching on my own experience, my own lived experience, even, with the abuse that was suffered at the hands of a parent, having had law enforcement involved in those kind of things. That's where all of this came out of.
Can I go into a little bit of a thing that I found very interesting about you?
Yes.
Tell me about your Aunt Wendy and this Pontiac you had that you drove around in.
Yeah, so my Aunt Wendy and she's still around. She was a major inspiration in my wanting to kind of get it. I'm really fascinated with vehicles and cars, and she had purchased two. She purchased a 1967 Dodge Dart and a 66 Pontiac Parisienne. It was a 4-door, and it was a big what we would call like a big ghetto sled. Like it was a big, massive car. And
just to give you a little bit of context, I grew up around my grandfather who built cars for a living. Like he loved building old cars. I grew up with my grandparents driving around all of Ontario in a 38 Ford, if I'm not mistaken. My first vehicle was a 83 El Camino that I built with my grandfather. So
that's fantastic. So
that's why I was asking.
You know where this is coming from then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fantastic. That's like such an incredible learning experience about getting your hands dirty on a car and understanding how and it's an analog machine. Like those ones they're very analog machines. So I remember having to help, replace the engine in it, replace tie rods. And I went so far as to pull the carpet out because I was like, I can redo the interior. I didn't ever understand that I had a level of incompetence. I always, in my head, in my grandiosity, I always had this idea that I was so incredibly competent that I was 15 years old and no problem. I could do the interior of a car. But that was it, learning how to do this stuff. And that was what really stimulated my fascination with fabrication and building and making things. Was we would work on cars and, customize cars and work those out. And, we were underage and we would take her driving around rural Portage la Prairie on a Sunday drive down all the back roads. Where she would sit in the back and I would be in the driver's seat and driving my Aunt Wendy around all of the, the hundreds and hundreds of acres that surrounded us. And it was fabulous. So I took that, I parlayed like what I learned from cars into, if these are all the steps and all the people that are included, because like there's body people, there's brake people, there's suspension people, there's paint, there's interiors. I was able to parlay that into the career that I had because I know how to coordinate these people to be able to create something. And that was the root of all of it.
I actually translated it, so my career started out being, I want to be a mechanic. And then, I really wanted to build cars because it was a problem to solve. And then I'm like, I don't like getting my hands dirty, I don't like exercising, so like, what can I do? And that's how I got into coding. And now I'm leveraging that even grander with what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
But like those are base skills that I loved that I got to have because it made me appreciate The little things I can do that I didn't realize not everybody can do. Let's go into one of your projects right now. I want to talk about the one that you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Can we talk about it?
Absolutely. In January of 2025, Nova Scotia had the 6th death from intimate partner violence. And I always want to make sure that I always say her name because she was in my town. She was the 6th, and it was just shortly before that the province had announced that intimate partner violence and gender-based violence was an epidemic. And her name was Elaine Mosher. She lived in Mahone Bay. And Elaine Mosher, I didn't know her, but it was something that really affected me. Her death did affect me. I think it just brought up a lot of things because I live in a small town of about 1,000 people. And so what I had done was I reached out to Kellyanne Hamshaw, who's the executive director of Harbour House Transition Services here on the South Shore. And I went to her with a housing project to talk housing, like a capital housing project. And we had talked about it. I brought in it took me a couple of weeks to formulate it and put it together. And I went with a folder and I presented it to her. And I said, this is what I would like to do. And she read through it and she was very, very happy with the effort that I had put in, but, put it down and gently said, in her words, I don't remember verbatim, thank you, but no thank you. And there was a part of me that was really crushed because, in any kind of work that I'm sure that even with you do, if somebody says no thank you, it's like, oh, what? And she did what you did. She's like, I looked you up. And she's like, she said, you have these other skills that I think we can tap into. Would you be interested in creating an educational art piece? And so her and I just talked. And a few weeks later, many meetings later, she ended up calling it our Godot moments, or waiting for Godot, where we were waiting for something to show up, waiting for something to happen. And then it was just this idea that I could create this art piece that would address intimate partner violence and gender-based violence, but have it geared towards men and young boys. So I had to kind of look back on my own experiences about where I was socialized, and I'll bring this comment back up. I learned from an analog source where I heard the language and I heard the vernacular and I heard the jokes and I heard these things were in the locker room. And where I experienced violence was in the locker room or in the boys' bathroom. And where that kind of behind closed doors socialization happens, where the information that we would learn from our fathers and our uncles and the men in our lives, that was all distilled down into these very condensed and very concentrated moments in time in the men's bathroom or in the boys' bathroom or in the locker room. And I played sports. And, I'd been sexually assaulted. I had been physically assaulted. I'd been given like the head in the toilet. I'd been beaten up many, many times. I had suffered a lot of verbal abuse. But that's just one of the spaces. So I realized that's one of the spaces that boys are socialized. Mm-hmm. And so I developed this idea of eight physical spaces of bathroom, locker room style bathrooms that would be within a controlled gallery environment, 8 stalls in total, and 8 different themes to them that explores everything from the transmutation of analog socialization to the very violent and very vocal and very loud digital solitary version of boys socialization now, all the way, to, how we have and how men have understood and relate to consent. That, if you keep saying no and then you finally say yes, is that even really consent? To, the very last one, which is about 21 seconds, about how much damage can occur and how much violence can occur in 21 seconds. And 21 seconds was chosen very specifically because that's how long it takes a human person to go pee. So it's a very simple bodily function. but how much violence and how much can occur in that 21 seconds. And the bathroom was chosen because also, when I was little, and I saw my mother have to run to the bathroom and lock the door. It's like the one room where there is this perceived safety. But, it's still the only room in the house that has a lock on the door inside. So it was like I just decided that this was the space that would allow men to come in, young men and men and young boys to come in and face one of the spaces where we learn this, where we learn the cruelty, where we learn the violence, and where it's now become like these algorithmic echo chambers.
I was bullied as a kid as well. Same thing, I've had a squirrely. It basically ostracized because I didn't know how to interact, and guys don't know how to interact with each other. This is the biggest eye-enlightening thing I could tell anybody. Guys do not know how to interact with each other. We don't teach, therefore we don't learn, right? So I look back on those days now and be like, I completely understand why. It's driven who I am. But yeah, I wish nobody had to go through that kind of thing. Everybody's different, so why are we ganging up on anybody different, right? Transformation really does take that pain, I think, and you get to showcase it to the world, and that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
I want to get into a little bit of your leadership. As a CEO and artist, how do you balance your team and staying just authentic to who you are? Because that's actually something I'm trying to build. I have a team, and I'm working at trying to balance my brand's authenticity with everything I'm managing and the people I'm also handing off things to.
Sure. So I have a company in the United States that is being phased out right now because I don't want to be creating other people's work anymore. So that part of my life has come to that chapter has closed, and it's a slow dissolve. It's a slow dissolve to fade. But as a CEO of that company, I was a one-man band. And one of the reasons is that, the type of work that I do doesn't require, I don't require a lot of people, but it does in some respect. And I'm sure you'll kind of understand this because we were always on the outside. We were never really brought to the table where, and just for myself, where heterosexual men belong, where they were and the privilege that they had, I was never invited to that table. So my approach to everything, and I mentioned this earlier, is that I really didn't have this concept of where my level of incompetence would start. I just felt like I had to be remarkably competent and exceptional at everything that I did to be taken seriously, and to be able to be given some level of, access to the table that, regular mediocre middle-aged white guys had. I don't get a chance to be mediocre.
Yeah.
Or if I am mediocre, I'm not going to be taken seriously, so I don't have that chance. I had a point I was galloping towards, and I've lost my thread.
It's okay, because you said something there that I resonated with the not being allowed at the table, because that's how it felt. And then for me, I didn't go through this is my first job at entrepreneurism. I was government worker because that's the path I was told would bring me happiness, joy, and success. But when I was, because I felt that way too, I felt ostracized. I felt the only way I could be at the table is if I was top tier spectacular. So I worked at that, and the system right now takes advantage of that. You put in all this hard work and effort because you want to make a difference, you want to do something, and it's your willingness to go above and beyond is more work. That's your reward. That's your will. That's what you get when you follow the same path of the script. I keep on calling it the script because I don't know how else to.
It's a really good term for it. That's really astute.
Yeah. So it is a lot different, but it's the same. I feel like a lot of men are now just following a script because that's what they've been told. Even now, the script's changing to be a plumber, be an electrician. It's like, okay, yes, but is that going to bring you happiness? Is that going to bring you the calmness that you and I feel now, that we found our passion?
Where I think I would like to add to this is talking about, and you brought up this term about balancing authenticity. Authenticity, if somebody said, are you an authentic person? Well, it depends on the time of day and who I'm dealing with, because, given the kind of work I've been in, with, when I was dealing with developers and contractors and general contractors and people of that ilk, I had to code switch. I had to don a different mask. That was, to them, that was the authentic version of me. And then when I was at home with my partner, there's another version. So if somebody were to say, how do you balance your authenticity? It's like, well, which one? Which version of authenticity are we talking about? Because, do I think I'm an authentic person? Yes, but. It's always going to be a yes, but. Because my authenticity is dependent on what I'm doing and where I'm at and what I'm working on. Because we all have to put on that mask, like you with working in government work, to be exceptional. That was not authentic. That was a mask that you donned, because to be taken seriously, you had to be this exceptional high achiever.
Mm-hmm.
So the authentic part, balancing authenticity and balancing the people that I'm involved with, I have a remarkably adept board of directors. I have everybody from a town councillor to an executive director of another local nonprofit, to retired RCMP, to somebody that was an administrator for the Princess of Wales Foundation, who was helping administer £112 million after the death of Princess Diana. So another person that's my treasurer, that's from .com world and from fintech. So the people that I have on board, I brought on board because I'm going to go back to this, is that I understand my level of incompetence. I know where I'm extremely competent and where I'm not. That's where I have to bring people in to go, okay, teach me. I need to learn what this is, because this is not, finance is not my world.
Yep.
Frontline work and policy making is not my world. Law is not my world. So I have to bring people in. I have to balance who I am with who they are and what their skills are, to go, how do I tap into that to make this a better project? Much like I did with, in the custom fabrication world. I would have to bring in engineers, like factories, material experts, electronics, electricians, civil engineers, but being able to understand, I don't have those skills, and I need to recognize that and be like, oh yeah, you know what, that's beyond my pay grade, and I need to bring people in that can help me. And if you have a good project and you have something good that you're showing, and it's coming from a good place, people are really willing to help out. Especially if it's authentic. And I like to go back to that word that you use, is that the authenticity of the project is what appeals to people.
My team helped me stand this up. I couldn't have done this without them. They believe in me, and that's also supporting this whole endeavor. I have a lot of followers, but I don't get a whole lot of engagement, and it's not a whole lot of video views. And I'm not worried about that, because every time I talk to my team, they're like, we feel it coming. Without them there, I would be struggling, because that confidence is coming from both me and them. We need to start connecting better with others who share the same goals, who want the same things, and who see the vision to really build it. And I'm loving this experience. Our story is getting molded together. We're working together. It's great. And this is how I think we need to start thinking about business, is structuring business around what makes people happy, what makes people excited to do their work, excited, and leveraging what makes them excited. So I have an editor who's loves just editing. He's like, man, just leave me behind the screen. Let me figure it out. And then I have a videographer who's like, who's giving me tips on like lighting and palm projections and video, and she's just so amazing at like getting the perfect picture. And then I have a marketer who's like, just wants to sit behind the scenes. He's like, just pass me the stuff and I will make it beautiful. I will send it out across the world. I'm like, thank you. And now I'm starting to like find these people and connect with people. And like, even now, making this connection, I'm going to leverage you into my network of people. I'm going to say, hey, like, art and men's mental health, and you want to like start a nonprofit, I'm going to send them your way, because you're going to know that knowledge. You're the person now I understand who's that person I can go to who has the information I don't. We need to start telling people, like, just go find the information, use people like Google, just don't abuse them like Google.
Yes. But I think you just hit on something again. You know, and you recognize within yourself, and you recognize where your skills stop.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what a lot of people have to, and I think what a lot of men have a hard time dealing with is understanding where their competence ends. And competence is a remarkably effective tool. Competence is what people are intimidated by. Very competent people, some people are like, oh, they're just jealous, or they're this, or they're envious of my success, or they're envious of this. It's like, no. What people find threatening and what people find intimidating is competence. Competent people are remarkably effective. And competent people understand where their skills stop and others have to be brought in, because it's not ego-driven. What I'm doing is not ego-driven. What you're doing is not ego-driven. I have a friend of mine that just moved back from Germany, and she's a musician. And she could get mired down, and then, the amount of talent in Nova Scotia and, Newfoundland is crazy. It's just an unbelievable level of talent in this area of the world. And she brought it down to earth last night, because you can get really mired down in the big picture to go, I don't have enough audience, my audience isn't big enough, and that's going to be really depressing, because you're not focusing on the 1 or 2 people or 5 people that are like, I really like what you're doing. And she said it last night. It was, I don't know how hot it was where you were, but it was about 38.5 on my back deck last night. And she's like, I'm just focusing on one fan at a time. One at a time. And she's like, that's how an audience is built, and that's how these are built. And when I created Alchemia Art Workshop, I created the artwork first, and then I created the nonprofit. But when I created the piece, I pitched it to one person first.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you need to get a hold of this person. So I pitched it to a second. And then that person said this person. And then I brought it to Susan Corkin Greek, who's our local, our MP. And she brought it to 5 or 6 people. And then it went to Sue Bookchin, who introduced me to 20 people. So instead of focusing on like, oh, I need to get national reach, or I need to have a massive audience on this. That's ego. That's the ego talking. This is, when you get right down to, if you really love what you're doing, you don't care how many people are watching. You don't care you don't care. And that's kind of as I've grown older, and it's like, who cares? Who cares what, what is it, that saying of like, it can be 99 people in the room and one hates you, but imagine if there's 99 people in the room and only one loves you.
Yeah.
Right? That's the person you focus on. And so even with your platform, you've got a remarkable platform that has the ability to be built, but it's not ego-driven.
No, yeah. I base the entire company under my values of like transparency, openness, and authenticity. Like I want to build something I can be proud of.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. Like, I have firm requirements now. Like, this is mine. This does not go anywhere. Like, it will not change, because it is who I am. The weird Canadian is who I am. So it doesn't make sense for me to sell out and then, like, because then who am I? Like, right? I'd rather this just be my platform, even if I only have 1 or 2 people And I echo a sentiment that I just came across today. Tom Bilyeu said, like, if you have 1,000, or if you have like 10,000, I don't know if this is the right quote, but if you have like millions of followers, it doesn't matter if you don't have 100 people pay, or 1,000 people paying you $100 a month. It's not a business; it's a hobby. Because you don't have an audience. You have people who just view and go away. Like, your audience wants to engage with you. They want to have more content. They want to. This is where the attention economy is going. It is going to authentic people just wanting to share and do things for the love of it. And we need to embrace that as a society. Like, do things for the love of it, not because you're going to get clout. Actually, now I just thought about it. Mr. Beast started his entire channel on, hey, if you give me 10 grand, I will just hand it to somebody, and that will be all I need.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to make content. Like, his only passion was to make content. And he's like, the best way to do that is to be the most human I can be, and not even think about the money, but just be like, this would be something I would watch. So why don't I create it? And I think we're getting to that. We're getting to, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to see, so I'll create it. Sorry, I went off on a little bit of tangent.
No, and I think where you're going with, and I recognize what you're saying is this requirement for connection, that people are looking, and there's a bit of an irony to this, that people are online looking for real human connection. It's not lost on me how ironic that is. But people are looking for real connection. They're looking to be taught. Because I think this is what's kind of been missed over the past 20, maybe 15 years, is to be being taught. And they want to learn something that's going to help them do some good. So I think this is where I think there's a paradigm shift that's happening, that I think we're starting to recognize, and people are pointing out what things are. Like, wait a minute, that's wrong. Or that person is espousing beliefs that are misogynist and racist and very dangerous, and why are they being monetized? Why are they still being provided a platform? Wait a minute, why is this platform being complicit, giving this person a platform to make money off of and teach people at a scale that we've never seen before? I think that people are beginning to recognize it. It's almost like they're like, wait a minute, this really does smell. And I think we need to kind of address it. But before you have to point at it and call it exactly what it is.
When I was first on the internet, I remember it wasn't scammy, right? It wasn't driven to monetize you. It wasn't driven to grab your attention. It was driven to free you. It was literally built to give you avenues out of what you have in front of you, like connecting. But as it grew, corporate America was like, we want control, control, and it's like, we took a wire that was frayed and then tried to contain it, but then the frays are now breaking because now you've got the control going too far, and now we need a whole new system that just lets us grow organically again. I put it into a reference of the internet was built when we were children, and it has acted like children our entire lives. It's time for our internet to grow up with us.
That's really clever.
Yeah, because it was built. Like, it's built on us being children, throwing our stuff out into the world, doing stupid things, and then having hate and love and all this attention based. I lost my thought there, but yeah, that's kind of where I see it is, and this is where I get into, like, AI is going to help us, blockchain is going to help us, like all these new technologies that were just unlocked for us to just have unimaginable creativity in this world. And I think we need more of it, just for the sake of it.
They are, the internet, like, I was in my early 20s, in my very early 20s when the internet was just starting out. I remember, having the big block and the tower and dial-up.
Yeah.
And I was living in Vancouver. I was living on the east side of Vancouver. And, we had dial-up internet. And it was the Wild West. It was like anything and everything you wanted was free. Anything you wanted to watch, anything that was creative that was on there it was all free access. It was just open source everything. It was an amazing time, but that didn't last very long. We're talking like within a couple of years. It was all of a sudden there were paywalls on things, and you had to have a credit card to be able to get to access things, and then you could buy stuff off the internet. And it was at that time a remarkably effective tool. And I look at how the internet has it helped me form even my bibliography, and all the material that I had to read for my project was sourced off the internet. Any AI is a remarkable tool. These are tools that can help us do things better and do things faster. It is
and do things correctly.
And do things correctly. And it is a remarkably effective tool, but I have to reiterate, it's a tool. And you have to wield tools with care and grace. And it's not a blunt instrument. It is, I kind of equate it, like I've just watched a thing on about how brain surgeons hone their skills by creating origami pieces with remote pincers, and it is, I believe that, the way that I approach it is that these things help you fine tune your skills.
When people are talking about AI, they're only seeing ChatGPT. That's the only thing they know. It's funny because when I think about AI, I'm thinking the base models, where to use them. Like, I have a base model right now, locally, that I don't have to tie to anybody. Like, it's mine. There's no internet connections. Like, I didn't talk to it. It has the same functionality that ChatGPT does. I built that because I understood it. And where I'm going with this is, what I've learned from building my own personal assistant, personal AI stuff, is every task you do on a day-to-day is a small system or workflow that can be made. You have to think of it. So I also come from microservice architecture development, and anybody who doesn't know what that is normally when you build a website, or traditionally when you build a website, you build one block of code for everything. It does all of the website stuff. It brings in all the database. It acts as one central application. And the new way of building is build little tiny applications that do little specific tasks to get the data, and then it correlates outside of that. And that's what I realized all humans are, is these little tiny processes that we do on a daily basis that let us function. And we think too big when we do AI, is we're giving it too much information. We need to give it less information. We need to prioritize how to bite-size our tasks in a way it understands. Because it's weird, I'm saying this again, it's weird that I'm talking about this, but AI is human. And everything. Like, it is built to resemble and act and learn and do like a human. We are flawed creatures. We designed a system that is built on our own flawed nature, and we expect it to be better than us. It will be. Don't get me wrong, it will be. But at that time, we're going to have to figure out how to work with it. So why are we not working with it as a human, as a connection right now? Treating it exactly like us, exactly like another person. This is the one echo that I try and iterate, is treat your AI like a human, and it will give you the amazing results.
That is really clever. That is very smart. And I think, I just think to my own use of it. And, I understand who I am as a person, because I still, and this is going to sound very silly, but I still say please and thank you.
So do I.
I don't know why. It is just, intellectually, I know that this is a program, but instinctually, I still have to say please and thank you.
Yeah.
And like that's the, for me, typing on my with my left arm, because I still have some. It's like the coordination is not great. I do a lot of speaking into my phone for notes, and then I use an editor to help me edit it, because I can't type the same way that I used to. It's just I can. It's just difficult. It's very difficult, and I find that that has been a very impressive and very remarkable tool for me to be able to just to stay creative, and to stay in business and to put stuff together, because I wouldn't be able to otherwise, because I don't have the same dexterity and the same skill that I may have had 2 years ago or 3 years ago prior to the strokes. But it is, again, it all depends on how you wield that tool. That it can be a blunt instrument, or it can be the most finely tuned engine in a car that you've ever experienced. But and I look at it as a remarkably effective collaborator and a remarkably effective tool to still help me create. Because if I couldn't, I just physically, I can't type the same way. I can't use a keyboard the same way. So without it, I wouldn't be able to create the stuff that I create, or invoice, or like all of the things that I would do on my own. There's an assistant, a highly caffeinated assistant that's available 24 hours a day. It's remarkably helpful.
And everybody has it. Everybody has access to it. That's the amazing part. I want to go into something you had said there. Did I lose it? I might have lost it. I was going to try and echo the sentiment of it extending what you know and what you do. Like, just use it for one. Like, so I want to emphasize, like, use it for one workflow. Like, have it generate your emails. Now I remember where I'm going with this. Okay, so I am currently writing a book on how to design user interfaces for everybody in mind.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, so I'm trying to break down, because we have this access to AI. I actually have a future talk that I'm going to talk to with an accessibility expert. We're going to talk about like how accessibility was in the government, and this new concept that I'm trying to build out, which is design for everybody, essentially, is what I'm trying to envision. Because we have AI, we have now voice, we have text, we have audio, we have like clips. We can now serve every user in the way they need access to. So I'm even talking like we have neural implants. So anybody who can't even access their mental faculties can still do everyday things like watch TV, play video games. Like, we have the technology now to have an interface for everybody. So I'm trying to write out a book on an interface for everybody, just discussing how to integrate for the user in mind. But I think a big factor in that is going to have is your own personal AIs. I think everybody's going to have their own personal AIs at some point.
I'm on board. I love it.
I do too, but a lot of people don't. There's a whole anti-tech movement going on right now.
I'll tell you, and that's like, I think one of the things that I really enjoy, and where with people that I'm around that have embraced the use of new technology, it reduces the amount of stupid. Because there's a lot, like, and that's, I think, like, there's an article that I read from a World War II Nazi camp survivor. He ended up dying. That was, that evil isn't what we have to fear. Stupidity is what we have to fear, because stupidity can't be reasoned with. You can't argue with stupidity. And anti-intellectuals and people that are anti-technology are perpetuating the idea that stupidity is a better way to be. And I can't get on board with that. It's like, no, I remember when, the internet was the first thing that we got in our house, and it was remarkably expensive, and nobody else was using it. And we were like, oh my God, there's entire libraries of information on here. There are ways that, back in the 90s, like having to learn how to create Canada Council grants, we got off of the internet, because previous to that, you had to mail away for something.
Yep.
And then you get the book, and then you had to go through everything. And now you can basically do your entire grant, upload it into an AI, and have it provide a sense check for you. And go, What am I missing? What should I add to this to make it a more compelling argument? Provide me with a sense check. And these are things like, again, use it as the tool for what it is. Because it'll take whatever idea you have. It's a good idea. It doesn't make it better. It just flourishes it.
And yeah, that's the one thing. So I actually wanted to get into a point that you actually made out. Questions.
Yes, sir.
Questions is what I'm going to talk about. One of the biggest things that I learned as a software developer is how to ask a question. That is the biggest superpower I can give to anybody out here. Learn to phrase a question well. Because that is the core of software development. How do I ask Google the information that I need to know? Like, I need to translate what I understand from this code to Google in English to ask one simple question for it to give me the answer that I'm looking for. And not only that, that answer could be wrong, but there's no fact checking around that answer, right? So I put in my question, and I'm like, I think this is the best phrased question that I can get to get the information I'm looking for. With Google, your only option was, does this link work? Does this thing work? Does this thing work? It was trial and error to figure it out. AI has superpowered that, because now I can ask AI, here's what the information I'm looking for. Please pick out my flaw areas in what information I like. Please ask clarifying questions so you understand what I'm asking. Please format it in a way that I and you understand, and make sure I'm not missing anything when I'm asking these questions in relation to this context. And that is a powerful device in itself. That's not something AI created. That's not something computers created. That's been around forever. Asking a question to anybody with those criteria in mind will get you amazing answers, and now you've got it in your pocket.
And the thing is being able to ask, even if you're dealing on an interpersonal level between people, like even, as I was developing my project, I didn't know the questions that I had to ask these people. So I had to go to them to say, what questions should I be asking right now? It wasn't I have like these very ignorant questions, because I really didn't know. I was like, I've read a lot. I said, but I would sit down with these frontline workers and policymakers and academics and just say, like, I don't know what I should be asking you right now. Can you please tell me some questions I need to be asking? So I went at this very similarly when I was approaching how to develop this project further and to make it as concise and as clear as I possibly could. I was like, please tell me what questions I should be asking with this piece. Please, can you tell me what I'm supposed to be asking, because I don't know what I don't know.
Yep, and that actually leads me into my last question, because we're almost out of time. But so that's all. So one thing I do want to approach is, that's all an entrepreneur is connecting with people, figuring out what you don't know, and then finding who knows it, and then asking them the dumb questions. The one thing I think we've lost, I do want to phrase it this way. The one thing I think we lost is, not lost, we gained shame from asking questions, dumb questions, for some reason. It feels shameful to not know. Do you feel that way? Like, is that sentiment echoed? So I think that's our main problem.
I understand what you're saying, and I think I mentioned this. I just mentioned this earlier. Is that throughout North America, there is this anti-intellectual movement going on that asking questions, questioning anything is the antithesis to where there's this idea that asking questions is intellectual, that it means that you're a troublemaker. And I think that this is something that I just see it within groups of people, not myself personally, because I have no problem, asking questions or posing things or being concerned and making a stir. But there is, and I agree that there is this shame that's been attached to it by, why don't you know this? It's like, well, how do I know what I don't know?
Yep.
Without asking questions. You can only do so much in this world, and you can't go by, well, I don't know about that. You can't live by that motto of well, I don't know anything about that. It's like, well, I'm trying to tell you, or I'd like to learn about this. Like, tell me. But I think that I think that AI is going to give some people this opportunity to be able to ask smarter questions, because you have to develop.
Yeah, and the one word that I'm hearing echoed around now in the space is agency. People with agency are going to be let free to do what they need to do. I think we're going to see a revolution of positivity. Just for ending this off, is there anything you would like to talk about, sound up, or promote?
That kind of went everywhere, and I really enjoyed it. You're very good at this. It was fantastic. If anybody wants to learn anything more about the project, and if they can go to our website, which is alchemiaartworkshop.org. I can provide you with any of that information if people want it. If there is an organization that is listening to this and they want to learn more, please reach out. We are about to go on a cross-Canada tour just on the civic side, just to gain endorsement from municipalities and town councils across the rest of Canada between now and January. If you would like to see this in your town, please reach out to me. I would love to be able to present this and then put this on the books. I'll be in St. John in November. I'll be there for Fogfest, the horror film festival. So I've gone to that 2 years in a row, and we'll be coming out again. I love that festival. They do an incredible job, and it's a great trip.
Thank you for coming on the show. This was very insightful, and I'll reach out when I can bring you back. I have to figure that out, but I do want to bring you back.
No worries. Thank you. And a motto of mine is keep it weird. So I appreciate appreciate your time today.
I can't thank Christopher enough for that amazing conversation. If you want to learn about Christopher or anything he's doing, to reach out to the Art Workshop. I'll make sure all of the details are down in the link below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're picking up on the channel. We're doing more of these conversations, and I want your input too. If you think I'm not talking about something or want to get into a particular topic, just reach out to me. My website is now being updated so that I can bring on people, discuss with people, and work out good shows with everybody in mind. So yeah, stay weird.